Hello and welcome to the CX Files podcast. I'm your host, Mark Hillary. Mike Aoki founded Reflective Keynotes almost 20 years ago. The company is based in Toronto, Canada, and is focused on customer service and sales training as well as advisory work. Mike is often listed as one of the top CX influencers globally, normally in the top 20 in the world. So I called him to ask about the blend between sales and customer service and how this is changing the customer journey. Okay, Mike, thanks for appearing on the podcast. Now, I know that a lot of companies are blending their customer service function with other customer-facing functions. You know, they're taking a more holistic view of the customer journey. So in particular, we're looking at sales and marketing being very closely aligned with customer service. And Gartner even called this idea the customer experience hub a few years ago. But each of these functions requires different skills, and I know that you talk about sales and customer service to your clients. So have any of your clients faced difficulties kind of blending these different areas?
Well, that's a great question, Mark. And yes, quite a few of them have struggled with that. The traditional challenge is trying to go and convert a traditional customer service only area into more of an upselling or cross-selling area. And I think one of the key challenges tends to be in terms of the kinds of people that are hired for those roles and how they mentally view themselves, meaning the frontline agents. Because typically people will, be hired in that role because they're very customer service focused. They want to help people, and they view helping as being solving problems and fixing things. Interestingly enough, though, along with that mindset, they view that in a very narrow sense of fixing a problem with someone's billing or a problem with someone's warranty. They don't necessarily extend that mindset to be fixing a problem in the sense of someone needing an extra accessory product or an add-on feature of some kind would really make their experience better. For some reason, and I know why, having done both roles myself, sales and customer service, they view it in a very solid mentality in customer service of purely being the idea that any kind of add-on sale or upsell is something bad. That's what salespeople do. And it's just when I talk to traditional customer service people about sales, because when I ask them, when you think of a salesperson, what characteristics do you think of? They typically mention things that are very much along the lines of a very aggressive used car salesman. Pushy, only interested in the salesperson's own commission, pushing things out the door, whether or not the customer needs it, bullying the customer into saying yes to it, etc. Those are characteristics of a really poor salesperson. And it's just really interesting about how I find that customer service people, traditionally, they view sales thinking about a really bad salesperson. I mean, that's the equivalent when you think about it from a contact center perspective about, say, if you had salespeople and you mentioned the word customer service and they mentioned customer service poor characteristics like not listening to customers, talking over them, sending out cut and paste examples of a policy instead of actually answering questions, etc., that would be a poor customer service person. So I just find it really interesting that with customer service people, they'll tend to view a salesperson or sales as being a characteristics of poor salespeople. So it's really a mindset shift. And one of the first things I do is spend time helping with that mindset shift, because unless we can get that done, all the skills in the world from a sales perspective won't help at all. And so we really focus there in terms of shifting that mindset to the belief that ideally, sales really is a part of customer service. It's an extension of it. It's really looking at ways to go and fix problems proactively. So, for instance, maybe somebody got a smartphone of some kind. That's really wonderful. And they can make a lot of use of it, but they also tend to go and say, take a lot of photographs with it and love putting things on Instagram. And so, the added upsell piece might be to go and talk about some of the extra lenses you can attach to it as an accessory to get even better pictures that look nicer and more postable for you as a customer. Just suggesting that alone can be quite a service to show the range of what people can do and how they can make better use of their products or services. So it really is the idea about sales being an extension of customer service and being able to blend those things together. So I think the first thing is the mindset piece. Once that's done, then the skills are pretty easy to learn.
So, in general then, would you say that if the client already has that kind of mindset, that the customer service team may also be involved in recommending products that help the customer, that's entirely different from a team that might come from a customer service only background and then they feel like they're being forced to sell?
Well, it is very much so, exactly. So the environment you described in terms of a very customer service and sales-focused mindset, that's very straightforward. Then it's simply learning the techniques. As you know, one of the toughest things to convince people of is why they should do something. Once the why is there, the how is usually pretty straightforward. And for a good customer service person, being able to ask those extra 2 or 3 questions to help their customer find additional solutions, or being able to, someone who's already really good at explaining how to fix a problem, being able to go and explain why an add-on feature or product or an upgraded package also helps solve a problem for a customer is usually pretty straightforward. The techniques are there. It's always a mindset that's the key. And I'll give you one other example, Mark, about that. One of the clients that I've worked with has made that transition. And most people have made it mentally to wanting to help people through additional sales. Sometimes, though, and I found this actually in a number of clients, beyond just this one, is you will find sometimes some stragglers who just have such a negative emotional connotation to sales that they can't make that leap or even refuse to do it. They will say flat out, I'm a customer service person, not a salesperson. And then when I ask, when you think of a salesperson, what do you think of? List a number of very poor characteristics and intentions. And what I typically find is as I diagnose this and work individually with different agents, if it gets to the point where they view sales as being a moral or ethical issue, they will literally say, and I've had people say that to me, I won't sell because it's wrong, morally wrong. I don't want to be one of those people, meaning bad salesperson. That gets to a stage where in some cases, and it's usually less than 10% of the staff, where they really can't or shouldn't be in that blended role. Because if it becomes a moral issue for them, a judgment issue, a values issue, then, again, it's not, up to the company or to myself to try to force somebody to make or go against their values if they really have that much of a negative attitude towards sales. And in that case, there may be a case where there's specific cues they can do that are purely customer service. Sometimes, too, it's a case where people don't make that transition and perhaps aren't the best fit for whatever the new VP or director wants to instill as far as a blended sales and service environment. The key, though, is this when it comes to the morals or ethics of doing this is you want to try to go and help customers by offering things that really matter to the customer and help that customer from their point of view. Not pushing product out the door, not forcing people to buy things, but what really helps the customer. Because if it helps them, then it is a good thing for them to at least suggest it. And the customer can say, no, that's okay. But you just want to make sure they're aware of what's out there so they can make the best use of their product or service.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it's something helpful, then you don't really even have to sell it, do you?
Oh, not at all. Exactly. You just have to explain the benefits, or in some cases, just let customers know it actually exists, and they'll want to buy it right away. And that's the key: is you really want to help customers to buy and at least be aware of what's out there, not force sales on them. Forcing sales on them is a bad salesperson. Don't do it.
Yeah, and do you think that a lot of this change in this kind of more blended approach is because we've started moving away from the kind of classic post-sale customer service is normally a customer with a problem, and we're looking at more of a kind of relationship throughout the customer journey? I mean, this would lead to longer and more frequent customer interactions, I guess.
Well, it really is. And I think it's an outgrowth, Mark, of what you mentioned in terms of the customer experience philosophy, the customer journey philosophy, which is that at every touch point, and they're really precious when customers actually touch base with you, at every touch point, you do want to add value. And value beyond just fixing their immediate need or problem, but proactive value in terms of looking at what else can you help them with or suggest or mention to them that can improve their overall user experience. And that could just extra tips, or it could be products and services. Are you being proactive, and are you building a relationship?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, does this mean then that we're seeing a need for different skills in the contact center, or can a company like your own go in and address the changing skill requirements for the agents?
I think one of the biggest things that's happening right now is just the actual agent skill level needs to increase. And yes, it can be trained, but the first step, I think, is for managers to really be able to, and leaders to address the whole idea about the fact that the skills have to change. I mean, if you look at even 5 years ago, the majority of interactions were very transactional. Customer calls up and says, I saw something on my bill, I don't know what it is. The customer service agent actually explains what that is. And then maybe the last, do you have is there anything else I can help you with? Right, that little bonus question on the QA sheet. And then that'll be the entire transaction. And it's very transactional. Now what we're finding is that customers tend to have more of, or at least ideally would have more of a relationship, with a customer service team, with a blended customer service and sales team, where you want to go beyond just answering the immediate question or even saying what else can I help you with, to saying, and next month this new thing will come out that will affect your service, or it's an offering that you might benefit from, or because you do a lot of work with whatever, this may add on to what you can do with your particular piece of equipment that you've purchased from us. So it's really being more proactive in that sense, thinking about the relationship and how can you add value. The idea being that if there is, say, a 3-year life cycle for a customer product, how can you help move them along that life cycle and then into the next product as well?
And how does that change the kind of metrics and the measurements you're using in the contact center? Because, typically, like you were saying, in a very transactional kind of environment, you're getting measured basically on how quickly you can turn around a problem and answer the customer question. But if we're now in this kind of much more relationship-driven environment, then it may not necessarily be a bad thing to keep talking to the customer for a long time.
Well, that's just it, Mark. And when you look at this, because AHT, average handle time, of course, used to be the be-all and end-all, one of the big efficiency metrics. But the thing is, it's just that. It's merely an efficiency metric. How efficiently can you get customers off the line, right? And then you can try to balance that with some other effectiveness or efficiency metrics as well to try to figure out in terms of, are you doing a good enough job in terms of, customer satisfaction scores, post-call, things like that. The real key, though, is this, though. It's still measuring just that transaction. And so the whole thing about this is you want to go towards more blended metrics that really focus on the effectiveness. And, okay, NPS scores and promoter scores are one example of that. There are other ones as well. But the whole key is to look in terms of, are your agents really building a relationship? And are they practically measuring or at least trying to help in terms of, being able to tell with openness towards other products, other services, being able to upsell and cross-sell, or at least build loyalty and practically retain the customer. And that's really crucial as well. And part of this is also looking in terms of the quality assurance form and what's being measured there. Because as we know, a lot of agents will tend to go and almost literally talk to the quality assurance form. And so that has to change as well to incorporate, examples in there, skills being used to go and build a relationship or probe for additional need or probe for usage patterns, things like that as well. So there's some of the skills that are really involved and metrics that are involved to help, really move towards that kind of a goal.
And finally then, is it many of these new technologies that we see introduced into the industry, are they being deployed to directly help customers or to help the agents to help the customer? And I'm thinking of things like automation and AI, for example,
Mm-hmm. Well, ideally it'll be both. And so ideally, and with systems that are out there, some of the cutting edge systems that are out there, they'll be able to go and help from the customer viewpoint, the self-service viewpoint, be able to suggest things for customers, and also be able to help guide the customer when they interact with your website or with online with the customer, with your company, to be able to help guide them in terms of information they're looking for, and then practically suggest things as well. So that'll help tremendously. And also from the customer service or sales agent side of things as well, AI can help tremendously with being able to analyze the account and suggest possible upsells and the rationale for it. If you go back, say, 5 years ago, it would, and I'll use the mobile phone business as an example, it could be fairly challenging for an agent while talking to a customer to look over the past, say, 6 months of billing and look at long distance and look at, airtime or the number of data minutes that someone's using, and then be able to make a suggestion for it. Whereas ideally now, some of the AI programs that are out there, they can analyze that kind of billing and immediately put a pop-up window in front of the agent saying, based on the past 6 months, this person will save $20 a month if they switch to the next higher data plan.
Yeah, so
it makes it.
No, I was just going to say, so there's actually a situation there where you're personalizing the service because of the technology, but it also creates the opportunity for some upsell as well.
Well, exactly, that's just it. And again, it also helps because it takes away some of the grunt work or some of the research work from the agent when they're trying to actually have a conversation with somebody over the phone or via live chat, and just gives them as a pop-up the example of what to upsell, and that's important as well. The other place where technology is going to make a huge impact, and it has already in some companies, is with AI speech analytics, where the AI engine goes through and actually looks at not just the way a human would do, say, 1 call per agent per week. It'll actually go through all the agent's phone calls and all the agent's texts and emails as well, and analyze those and look for certain patterns in terms of the relationships and how that agent's doing it, and provide information back from that. And what's wonderful about that is that, first of all, an AI can be very neutral if it's well programmed. So you won't have the issue in terms of biases that some of the human QA coaches may have. But more importantly, the sample size is bigger. Because I found in terms of contact centers, when QA is delivered, and and again, I've had to deliver it myself, you always get agents that will say, well, you got me at a bad call this week. The 1 call you did this week, that was a bad call. I don't normally say that, right? That's very typical to have. With AI analyzing, though, 1,000 calls this week, okay, for that agent, and looking at a pattern and going, well, 80% of the time they didn't mention the warranty, that's much stronger now in terms of being able to give, spot trends, spot clues, and give data points. And again, I don't want Q&A to be an enforcement piece. I want it to be a coaching piece, but it gives you more information as a manager to be able to help coach back to your reps as well. So that's another example of speech analytics and AI, where it gives you more coaching tools to help improve performance.
That's fantastic, yeah, and I guess that's also very important for regulated industries. You can ensure that you're always compliant.
Well, this is wrong. You mentioned that too. I do a lot of work with mortgage companies, and one of the things there, of course, is compliance. And so what's great about speech analytics is it will actually determine whether or not the entire correct, verbiage for certain clauses was said correctly or not. So it really does help ensure, compliance in that way as well.
Thanks for listening to the CX Files podcast. Please take a moment to review the podcast because this helps other listeners to find it. And if you have any suggestions, then get in touch with me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I'm at Mark Hillary with 2 L's, or just search Google for Mark Hillary.